Mic check. Hello, people. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, we can hear you. We have problems.
Yes. From what I'm guessing yesterday was a real whirlwind for some persons.
Sir, but I tried submitting from 11 p.m. and it never
Yes.
went through. And I sent you
I
screenshots and everything.
yes. So when this morning I did see a barrage of messages. I think the form might have closed early, maybe because of something technical. I think it's either because of the size or maybe there's some kind of quota that Google have. I'm not sure. I almost think it's the size. But yeah, I didn't intentionally close the form half an hour early. So in light of that, um I will be opening it up so that you guys can make a submission ASAP so that we can proceed.
All right,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, most definitely. Because, I mean, as I say, guys, my objective is for you guys to pass, not fail. But we do have to complete the course at the same time, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think the website was a little bit clever or something because when everybody was trying to submit, it did
that's
not
a,
work, sir.
I think that's what happened actually. Because I was like, what? The form lock half an hour early? Why? So I think that maybe Google has some kind of thing that maybe if too much person submitting it closes off, maybe to prevent some kind of DDoS attack or hacking attack. I don't know. So I will open it back up so that we can get that done. All right.
All right, sir.
Okay.
Most thanks.
Sure. All right. So we are at the end of the tunnel, guys. We are at the end of the tunnel. It has been quite a journey, I suspect, for some of us. I'm seeing some interesting comments, some of which we are learning. So some persons were saying they feel good to have learned a bit more on creating construction drawings. Um, and by the way, when is your final crit, guys?
The 29th.
29. 29. Let's see. 29. Yes, week
Sir,
after
I,
next.
for one, have an issue. Well, we could speak after class.
Sure. I mean, is it something regarding like more personal to you, or is it with the assignment?
Yes, sir. And regarding to my program and all of that, it's kind of been a whirlwind for me, but we can
Okay.
discuss after class if you like.
All right, no problem. We can talk about it afterwards. Now, I want to show you guys something. Um, I'm just waiting on my computer to load this thing up. Let's see. Goodness, where did I put it? Okay, here we go. Yes, I found it. What? Hold on, I'm getting an error, guys. Just give me a minute here. Getting an error. Desktop. All right, it seems to be opening now. All right, cool. All right. Okay. Okay, it's still not opening. Oh dear Lord. Okay. Yeah. Hmm. I have some, for some reason, files are not open. Here. Coming right to you guys, just trying to open this model here. Go to where the bucket.
Sir?
Yeah, man, I'm here. I'm just trying to open this file.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
just able to join.
Hmm. All right. So we had discussed earlier that yes, the form for some reason closed a bit early, so I'm gonna open it back up so that we can submit. If it was that you were talking, right? All right, guys. You're seeing my screen, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thumbs up. All right, cool. All right. Now this is what I wanted to show you. For some reason, I wanted to show you what we did last semester. For some reason my Rivet files were saying it's corrupt, which is weird. But anyway, right. Now, if you remember this model, this is what I was here searching for. I was here searching for my model that I did. And this year we did this. So we did two models. One last year for 3D modeling. You guys still remember that, right? Good times, right?
Yes, sir.
And then we did one this semester. Now, I'm hoping that you guys can identify the difference in these two assignments that we did. We did a major project last year where we learned how to build a 3D model. And we also did one this year. What were the main differences? Who can tell me? By the way, before you go, I know that your cabin looks different from my cabin because everybody did their own design, right? But I'm just using this as a kind of example. So who can tell me what's the difference between what we did last semester and what we did this semester? Anybody?
Sir, I would say this semester was a little bit more technical with grids and levels. We had to be more precise, and we used concrete and a lot of stuff. And the stairs also were more complicated to do. I'd say it was more technical overall. That's it.
Okay. All right. Cool. Fair enough. All right. All right. I want you guys to process this, and we're going to revisit it again later, right? But I just want to kind of highlight this because this is something that I want us to talk about and to reflect on, right? Before we continue our reflecting, though, we still have one more fish to fry. And for a lot of us, for some of us, this will be our saving grace. Because remember, once we start with the assignment, in order for you to be in a group, you should have already submitted the work. So I have a list here of people who already submitted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the submission form now. And everybody that's here needs to submit where they are. Because now for this class, we're going to be going into groups and we're going to be moving to the next phase of this assignment. Now, this next phase will be easier. And it, as I said, guys, if you did not get to finish, right, whatever you submit, we'll mark it. But that's only 30%. Remember, both of these together add up to 60%. The major project on a whole is 60%. If you never get to do good in the first 30%, now is your opportunity to recover. All right? But it is best that you submit something rather than throw out that 30%. All right? So, what we're going to do, we're going to go into groups and tackle the second part, which is going to be the collaborative project. But I'm going to have to use at least 5 minutes out of this class for everyone to submit. Yes, Miss Cox, what's up?
Sir, when I was trying to submit yesterday, my
Mhm.
laptop kind of crashed and parts of my Revit file got deleted. Is it okay for the form to be open just for today?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We said that at the beginning. So
So by
the
the end of the
form,
day, I can still send in.
no,
Okay.
no, right now.
Ah, but
Oh, meaning that you don't have access to the file now? That's what you're saying?
I just got back access to the file. That's why it took me so long to like join back class.
Oh, okay. All right. No worries. No worries. So here what, guys? I'm going to open the submission form. Submit now. If there are any other complications, we can talk about it after class. Yeah, Gavin. Question?
Sir, how much per group?
Maximum three. Or it's supposed to be three, but just in case it might not fall exactly. All right, guys. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to submit. And then based on the names that are submitted now, we're going to go into groups so we can dive into the second project. Remember, even if you are not complete, just submit what you have. No, we can talk about any complications after class, but we have to keep it moving. All right.
There, I have an issue. When I tried to submit yesterday, I had an hour to submit window time,
Uh-huh.
and the file would not upload. And so I'm just wondering if I should send it to your email.
No, if the file doesn't upload, chances are it's because Google has some funny business when it comes to uploading and quota. So all you need to do is just submit from a different Google login. So if you have two emails or you have a friend email or whatever you want to just make a new email just to submit, it doesn't matter. Just use a different login and you should be fine. All right.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right. Let me just find the form real quick. Let's see. Turn off that pop-up now. Okay, let's do this. All right. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Just go ahead and upload your files now, and then we will continue. All right. In the meantime, those of you who already uploaded, can you just identify
Sir, is it the
what
same link?
same link? Yeah, man. Just
There,
refresh it.
5 minutes won't be enough for me though. It won't even load the page. It won't
All right.
even
All
load
right.
the
All
page.
right.
I don't know what to do because no.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right. Here what we'll do. Just let it there upload in the meantime. All right. All right. So let me look
The
here.
issue is that I want to have a group though, so if mine
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not
yeah. Yeah,
uploaded.
man. I will just bring up my list now so that I can put you in a group even if you're not there. All right, cool. All right, let's see. All right. Now, what I want you guys to do is to just well, keep in mind what groups you want to be in. All right. We are going to move to, let me bring up this presentation right now. Here we go. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about collaboration in Revit. All right, because this is what we're going to be doing for part 2 of the assignment. All right. Try and another file here. I'm just waiting for a file to open, guys. Okay, here we go. Gonna do vision space. This is one file. Wow, I have a lot of rivets open today. All right. Close this one. This one here. Yeah, guys. I'm dealing with some heavy files today, so. All right. So, what you're looking at here is the Snowdon project that we have been using um in our presentation throughout the semester, right? And everybody had chosen a different topic, right? One of you had gotten the topic of collaboration, right? One of you had gotten that group. And remember, I told you that that was going to be a part of what we do in this module. Now, when we are collaborating in Revit, the idea with collaboration is that you can be in 3 different locations but work in the same project, right? And you guys that are in groups are going to be in different locations. I mean, we're online now. Chances are you won't all be in the same physical space, but we're going to be able to work together. Now, collaboration is going to be important because you're going to need this next semester. Next semester, when you do computing, you're going to have to work together in a group to do a set of drawings, and you're going to have to work collaboratively. And I'm hoping that you guys will be the group that finally works collaboratively actually in Revit. Because I think what happens is that I think because we're all kind of learning Revit, sometimes when we tend to when we go in the pressure now of doing actual project in Revit, we tend to default back to our old ways of working. So what I'm hoping now is that when we learn collaboration, it is something that you not only do to secure your 30% now, but you will do it next semester and hopefully when you go off into the working world. Now, if you remember, we kind of formed this large, let's say, firm, and all of us work together on this M Plus Pavilion project. Individually, everyone built their own set of drawings. Now, in this section, we're going to go into 3 different groups, and we're going to be, three different members per each group. And the idea is that we're all going to work in the same project. Now, working collaboratively in Revit, there are 2 ways that we can do that. We can either use a feature that's called work sharing, right? And that is a feature where everyone works in the same project. Anybody ever heard of work sharing before? Anybody here familiar with, even if you never use it, and you ever hear about it?
No, sir.
No? Thumbs up if anybody ever hear. 1 person. All right, Gavin. All right, fine. They probably heard about it. Now, the other way we can work together is via using file linking. So these are two methods. Now, file linking is something that we've always used in the architectural field. Since AutoCAD days, we have been using file linking. In AutoCAD, we normally call them XREF. Anybody ever hear the word XREF before? Thumbs up if you had. The word XREF. Some of us. Cool. So XREF means external reference. It simply means you're referencing a file. Everybody in here draws, right? And everybody in here knows about tracing paper. So when you put tracing paper over your drawing sheet and you trace over it, you are using your drawing sheet as a reference. So you're referencing the drawing sheet and drawing over it using the tracing paper. And that is exactly what XREF is in AutoCAD. So originally what we've always done is, for example, if let's say Jadmar is working on a building, but Shai is working on the interior of that building, then Shai would reference Jadmar's building. Think of it this way. Shai, you would put a tracing paper over Jadmar's building, and then you would now draw the interior of the building. While Jadmir focuses on the exterior of the building. But both of you are working in the same or on the same building. Now, work sharing works similar. But this time around, we're going to be using the file linking method. If you're interested in learning about work sharing, if we have any time, I can talk to you about that. We're only going to use one. We can't use both of them. We don't have enough time, right? And work sharing usually takes a little bit more to set up. You have to know a little bit more of networking and all of that for it to work. The simple version of work sharing is a subscription service from Autodesk, so it costs money. And it's not included in your student license. So the only way we can use work sharing is either the complex way or the simple way requires a subscription. Now, file linking is totally free. There is a little bit of limitation with using the file linking method, but we're going to learn a little bit how we can work with that. Now, the work sharing method, what it does is divides everyone into different users. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when you open your Revit, you notice that at the top of Revit here, you see this user sign in, right? So if you're using the student license, you will see your user signing here. Now, even if you're not using a student license version, your Revit by default has a sign-in that's the same name as your Windows login. So if your Windows login name is Brian, then your Revit login name is Brian. If you log in using your student ID, then it is whatever your student ID name is, right? Now, that is what a user is. And in Revit, what you do is you designate elements of the model and assign them to a user. And that user is able to work in that model all simultaneously. Kind of like if you, I don't know if you guys, if you play like a multiplayer game, you play Call of Duty, you play, I don't know, some online multiplayer game where all of you are in one map battling it out. It's the same thing in Revit. You're all in one Revit file battling it out. And Revit knows you based on the different users. Now, with our project, we are going to be using the file linking method. And if you look at the Snowdown project that we have been seeing here, this project is also using file linking. So for example, if you open the architectural part of the project and you go to the 3D model, what you notice is that the context, if you click on it, it's actually a linked file. So if I go to properties here and I click on, sorry, let's go to view, let's turn on the project browser, right? So let me put the project browser on this side so you can see clearly, right? So if I click on the context here, my project browser, which is on this side, minimize all of this. My project browser is telling me that I have the file called Snowdown Towers sample site linked into my project. So if I choose to unload this link, then I will have no context, because the context file is actually a separate Rivet file. And you can know that because you can see this is a .rvt file, right? So if I minimize this here, what you notice is that I have my, let's put this over here, right? And let's close the properties for now. Yeah. So what you notice is that I have my site file right here. So when I go to, if I open the site file and I go to 3D view, then you notice that in my site file, I can actually edit these objects. And then if you look at my building here, my building is now a linked file in my site file, right? So the basic idea is that you have multiple Revit files, and then you merge those Revit files together to have one primary file. In this case, the person that lays out the furniture is doing it in their own file, and the person that does the mechanical and electrical is working in their own file. So this is how we use Revit in the working world. In the working world, the idea is it can be twofold. You can be in the office and you decide to work on a project together. So you might say, all right, Abigail, you take the ground floor, and Okiri, you take the first floor. Both of you have two separate Revit files, but then you merge them together to create that final file. Now we're going to be doing that, and what we're going to be doing is you're going to be divided into 3 groups. The first group is going to be the designer. The next group is going to be the family modeler, and the lead of the group is going to be the BIM coordinator. Now, how this is going to work is oh, I forget, I can't zoom presentation. Let me download this. There we go. There we go. All right. Everyone can see my screen. For our collaborative project, you will form groups of 3 and utilize the existing drawings you previously produced to propose a layout of an exhibition. So this is that empty space that you have on the upper floor, right? Each group will create a name, logo, contact information to be placed on your sheets, just like what you did before. Now, um, each group is to produce two options for the layout of this space here. This project is basically simulating what is done in an architectural office when you have to share a project together, right? So each member is responsible for a specific role, and the collaboration is going to be done using file linking. So this is the space that should be on the interior of your model. Now, I am going to be giving you, every group is going to get a starting model that I have produced. So you're not going to use the models that you created. You're going to use the model that I give you. All right. It's the same M plus pavilion, but you're going to use my version of the model. That way everybody has the same starting point. All right. Now, on the left hand side is a concept sketch. So this is what is envisioned for this space. Now, when I said the design of this space, all it really is a bunch of walls. It's just an empty room, and you're basically putting up walls that's going to serve as a backdrop for hanging mirrors. So it's, as I said, guys, it's really not a lot of work. Like, you're not like creating a brand new model. All you're doing is determining, how can I arrange the walls in this space for an exhibition? So the exhibition should be inspired by the designer's sketch shown above, and it may be interpreted creatively by the team. So there are going to be three groups. If the person who is the interior designer, you can look at this sketch and create a floor plan that basically lays out the floor, and be inspired by this hand sketch that is here. So what I mean, you're not necessarily going inside this sketch and counting, okay, this chair is X width by X length. There is a wall here that is 10 foot wide. No, you can create your own layout of walls, but there are some things that you notice in this sketch. So for example, portraits are hung on the wall, right? Then there are also portraits that are on pedestal display. You can put the pedestal displays wherever you want. It's totally up to you. So the person who is the interior designer is only focused on putting those walls in the plan and manipulating the positions of the pedestals and the benches. You following me so far, Alana?
So can you repeat that?
No, I'm saying if you're following me so far, you're understanding what the interior designer does?
Yes, sir. I mean, I think everyone should know what the interior designer does.
Well, in the context of this project, right? You're using the existing exhibition space. You're looking on this sketch and you're going to create an exhibition layout as a floor plan.
Yes, sir. I'm following.
All right, good to go, good to go. All right. Now, skip down now. There are three group members here, and we spoke about the interior designer. Now, there's going to be somebody that's designated as the family modeler. That means the person who will create the pedestal and the bench. So the family modeler creates and manages the custom Revit files, furniture that is going to be used in the exhibition. It ensures that the parameters of, it basically ensures that the objects are modeled. Now, this is what the pedestal looks like, and this is what the bench looks like, right? And what the family modeler is responsible for is for creating this object. Now, when the family modeler creates this object, the interior designer is going to distribute the object throughout the floor plan, depending on what the design is. The final role is going to be the BIM coordinator, right? And the BIM coordinator is the person that is responsible for merging the interior designer's drawing into the main model. The BIM coordinator is also going to put them on sheets, add annotations, stuff like that. You guys following me so far? Yes, thumbs up. Yes, cool. All right, cool. All right. So for this part of the project, I'm going to give you the model that you're going to use. I'm going to give you the starting points, basically. I have 3 folders to distribute. One folder is going to go to the BIM coordinator. Another folder is going to go to the family modeler. And the third folder is going to the interior design. All 3 of you are to work in those files that I have given you. All right, so you're not creating your own files from scratch. You're going to use the file that I prepared for you. All right. Now, when you form a group, you need to store your files somewhere. So you're going to decide where do you want to store your files. Go ahead, Gavin.
So no man upside.
All right, right. So if you want to use Google Drive, if you want to use OneDrive, if you want to use Autodesk Construction Cloud, it's totally up to you. But what is constant is that you all have to be using the same version of Revit. All right, guys? Naturally, because you're working together on the same project. Cool? So I'm going to leave it up to the groups to decide what cloud platform they're going to use, right? So all you're going to do is you're going to create this cloud platform, and you need to and then you're going to put these folders in that cloud platform. All right. Now,
Sir, question.
yeah, go ahead.
Like how you said that we all have to be using the same version of Revit. I remember you mentioning using 2024. Is it that like that's the best one to use, or can we all use like 26 or 25?
You can all use 26 or 25. I
Okay.
normally recommend 24 because it's the lowest. You can always go from low to high, but you can't go from high to low. So if I recommend 24 and you all use 24, and somebody using 26, you can go up. You get what I'm saying? But if I recommend 26 and for some reason 26 don't work on somebody's computer, you can't go down. So if somebody in your group has 26, then you all have to go up to 26 to be compatible. All right, guys? All right. Everybody, you're going to have a group grade and an individual grade, right? So if you look on the responsibilities here, so for example, the BIM coordinator, they're going to put the model together, they're going to put the sheets together. So that is what 50% of your grade coming from. The family modeler is the one that's going to build these objects in Revit. So that's what your grade comes from. The interior designer is going to create 2 layout options. So so everybody is going to have their own Revit file. So you're all submitting your individual Revit files. However, the BIM coordinator, that Revit file would be used to grade everybody. Because the BIM coordinator is submitting the Revit file that includes everybody else's and the PDF. Now this time around, what I need is the floor plans, uh, two interior views in Revit. No rendering, no, you don't have to go to Twinmotion or Lumion, just in Revit. And then I need a page that has the um the pedestal drawing. So maybe it has like a front view, a top view, and a side view, and the same for the bench. So that is what you're delivering to me. Now, you already have sheets that you already created, right? So you can use the existing sheet families that you have. This Revit file that I'm giving you has no sheets. So you're only going to create the sheets for this part of the project. All right, guys? Now, I'll be giving you two tutorials today. One of them is going to be on using the design options feature in Revit. And that's going to be especially for the persons that are going to be doing the interior designer role. And the other tutorial is going to be on using the family editor. Now, we did do some family modeling last year, right? This time we're going to do pretty much the same thing. Anybody remember what you modeled in the family model last year? Who remembers? What did you create? Anybody remember? No?
The bench.
Right, you created a bench. This time you're going to create another bench. Can you believe it, Abigail? Another bench.
So excited.
Well, guess what the exciting thing is this time? We're going to be making a parametric object. So that is going to be the added thing that we do this semester, right? So that means that this bench that we create, when it's in the model, you can adjust the sizing of it, right? Whereas last semester we only modeled it. So that's going to be the task of the family modeler, right? So that is the assignment in a nutshell, right? So this handout is going to be on the class site. Let's see now. I need to figure out the submission. I think what you should do is just let one person submit. So you would make the person who is the BIM coordinator submit the BIM file, the family file, and the interior file. All right, guys? Just to make life simple. I don't think I want to have 3 different submissions. It's easier to just do with one submission for each group. All right, any questions so far, guys?
Sir, is it groups of, so it's groups of 3?
Groups of 3, right. Any other questions? All right. Now, we're going to jump into the tutorial that we have here. One of it might have to go into the other session. We will see how it goes. But now we need to go into groups. So I'm hoping that everyone kind of decided on what groups they want to be. Mic check? Yes. All right. Let me bring up my group thing here. Uh, yeah, Nicole. There, I have a tutorial on that, but let me get through this and then I will see if I can help you with that task. All right, Nicole. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Um, before we go into groups, we are going to go through the tutorial. Now, for those of you that decide, let me see. I'm looking on the mirror board here. You guys were in groups already. Oh, but they were not groups of 3 though. Yeah, so you're gonna have to go back into different groups. Okay. All right, no worries. All right, guys. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna do a quick tutorial on using design options, because remember, one of the requirements is for the interior design creates the BIM model of the interior exhibition space, which is linked to the host model, right? So they should create 2 options. Now, the persons who have the role of interior designer, you're going to be given these files. I'm going to show them to you now. Here we are. Where is it? Collaborative project. Here we go. Right. So every group will have these 3 folders. You're going to have the BIM coordinator, family modeler, interior designer. For the interior designer, you have a Revit file that's here. And you also, I gave you a 2D drawing as well, because some of us, maybe you want to lay out you want to do the design as a sketch, or you want to do it in SketchUp or some other program. So I gave you an AutoCAD file that has the floor plan as just a 2D, two-dimensional drawing. If, for example, you're a fan of SketchUp, then you can just put it in SketchUp and use it if you want. Some of us design spaces in Revit, so you can do it directly in Revit if you want. So this is the floor plan here. This is the space. And what you're going to do is you're just creating a layout. The layout has displays for art pieces and also objects, art objects that are going to go on the pedestal. So what you're going to do is design, okay, you enter from this space here. For example, you might determine, okay, I'm going to have a wall. Right. You might decide to have a wall here, another wall here, and then maybe a wall here or something. And then maybe you have pedestals in the middle. You know, it's totally up to you how you want to design this space. Maybe you want to do it angular, like maybe you want to have the walls like this. You know what I mean? And then maybe you kind of walk through the space like that. It's like, don't overcomplicate it, guys. It's not about the design. Yes, I am looking on the design because obviously, like, the design has to work. It's a big empty space, and you have a bunch of art pieces that's going to be displayed. So using that idea, you are architectural students. You can determine if you want to have pedestals on 4 sides, and then you have maybe a wall here. Totally up to you. Now, remember interior design group, the pedestals that you use must be from the family modeler. All right? All right. Meaning, sure, in your design process, you can put some boxes, and the boxes represent where the pedestals will be. But when you submit your work to me, in order for the group grade to work, I have to see all three pieces, all three parts come together. All right. Now, let's see. Still on the designer. If you look in your folder, you're also going to have a Revit file. Now, this Revit file is basically empty. Let me open it for you. Right. Right. This is all that's in the Revit file. It's empty. Right? So you need to reference where the model is. So what does that mean? You need to link the BIM model into your project so that you know where the model is in reference to the layout that you're doing. If you want, you could also insert the CAD file that I've given you. Come on. Oh, here it is. Right. You can also insert the CAD file. It should drop in place. There you go. And then you'll have the CAD file as a reference. And you can now draw your walls and everything. Now, of course, for the interior designer, there's no need for you to draw all of these exterior walls because they exist already. All right. So that's it for the interior designer. Now, for the family modeler, your files, so what you will have in your folder for the family modeler is going to be 2 RFA files. So RFA is Revit family files. Now, these files are going to be empty, of course, because you are going to create this object. So let me show you what your files look like. Here we go. So when you open these RFA files, they're going to be empty because they're basically just a furniture family file, and the objective now is that you would start to create the furniture in this file. Now, the furniture you're going to create is going to be this display. So the idea is that an object would be sitting on top of this and then create this bench here. So you have 2 objects to create. Now I'll give you an idea of how to create this one. This one, I'm going to leave you guys to figure out how you would model this. All right. You know, just so it's not too boring for you. You know what I mean? Right, Joshua? Are you here, Joshua?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Oh, I should have taken questions. Is there any questions for the interior designer role? Any questions?
So essentially for interior design, all I have to do is just import the AutoCAD and just lay it out so that when you link the
lay it
file.
out. Exactly. Cool. Any questions for the family modeler? No? All right, cool. All right. The last role is going to be the BIM coordinator. Now, the BIM coordinator is going to be responsible for putting the model together. So in that folder, is the BIM coordinator folder, you're just going to have a file of the project. So if I open this file up here, all you will have is a model of the building. Now, this is going to be a version of the model that I created. There are no sheets, there are no views, there are no elevations, nothing. There's nothing in this file but just the model. That's all there is to it. All right. Now, what you are going to do as the BIM coordinator is you are going to ensure that the interior design file is linked into this file. And then you're going to create sheets for this interior design. Now, the sheets you're going to create is going to be based on what is on the handout. So keep an eye on the handout. Where did it go? It's this one. Where did I put it? Man, if I closed it, I think. Right, it's going to be based on the handout. So, BIM coordinator, you're responsible for giving me drawings for floor plans, 2 interior perspectives, the pedestal drawings, and the bench drawings. Now remember, as the BIM coordinator, you're basically putting the sheets together and putting annotations together. All right. You're not responsible to create the design or create the objects. Any questions for the BIM coordinator role?
So, sir, so only 4 sheets or
Well, is it 4 sheets?
no?
However you want to lay it out, because floor plans, maybe 4 plans, maybe 1 will go on each sheet. Right? You're pretty much using the same layout, same scale, everything that you did from the individual project.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
If you want to put 2 perspective views on 1 sheet, it's totally up to you. All right? Some things to look out for. Remember, we did come up with a naming convention for our sheets. So I'm going to be looking at how you name your sheets. And remember, we also came up with the standards for our sheet numbering. If you remember, it's on the mirror board. Where is it? Here. So, where would plans fall? Where would 3D drawings fall? Right? So you need to keep an eye on this and name the sheets appropriately. So the BIM coordinator, yes, you will be marked individually, but how you put everything together affects the entire group. All right, so you have a little bit more weight on your shoulders. But you know how it is being a group leader. All right, you're not necessarily doing any drawings, but you are putting the drawings, the hard work of your team members, you're putting it together and delivering it appropriately. All right. All right. Any questions for the BIM coordinator?
Yeah, sir. I'm the BIM coordinator from my group, but I have 2 members already. Or are you choosing the members, or can I choose my members?
You choose your own members.
Okay.
So it's totally up to you.
Okay,
right?
sir.
I'm just going to provide the means by which I record the members, right? So we're going to just
Okay.
do it up on a form real quick. All right. Now, before you guys go and before we do the groups, everybody here should learn about how we do design options and how we do family modeling, right? So just because a person may be doing the interior design, it is for everyone here to learn how to do it. So we're going to go through these 2 tutorials with everyone in the group. All right. So, and then after the tutorials, I think you'll be a little bit more informed and you'll be like, okay, definitely I want to be the BIM, the family modeler. Or you might be, oh, the hell no, I don't want to be the family modeler. I don't know. I don't want to use those things. I don't know how to use those things as good or whatever. All right. So we're going to take a look on 2 short tutorials. We're going to do it the OG way, right? We're going to do it in class though, right? We're not going to be doing the whole app submit screenshot way, right? And then you can always refer back to this class recording if you want to view it again. Now, some of you already know this stuff already, right? But some of you don't. So my job is to make sure that everyone knows how. So we're gonna take a look on what do we have? So let's take a look on design options. These are pretty short, guys, like 15 minutes or more, I think. All right, so let's go.
Design. Now, I want to speak about something that's very common in design.
Oh wait, Miss Cox, you had a question?
Yes, sir. So regarding the groups, normally the class is kind of uneven, and for persons that normally work with me, we're all in 4th year,
Right.
and it's 4 of us right now. Is it okay
Ah.
to have that as a group?
You can be less, but you can be more.
Can be less, but not more.
Right. So it would be groups of 2. Yeah. I think, yeah. Because as I said, this is really easy. Like you can literally do this in one afternoon. You just put in a bunch of walls for the interior space. And for the maybe for the family modeler, but it's a bench, guys. So I'm thinking for the family modeler, you can knock this off in an hour. So it's not something that you can do as 4 people. But maybe as 2 people, one person would be the BIM coordinator and maybe the interior designer, right?
Okay, sir.
Cool, cool. All right. So what we're looking at now, this is primarily for the interior designers. Well, it's for everybody to learn because this is super important. I've seen so many times when you guys have your desk script and you're showing options for your design, and I see people doing it always the wrong way. So I'm hoping after learning this, we can start to do design options the right way whenever we have multiple options for one floor plan.
And that is design options. Usually you have different iterations of an idea that you might want to explore and show to your client. Now, look at this example for in this case. We have an example of 2 bathroom layouts, right? And what I want to talk about is a feature in Revit that allows you to efficiently do different designs. Now, right away, I can tell you that the incorrect way to do this is to do 2 separate floor plans side by side. That's usually what is done, and so that you can see both floor plans. But when doing design options in BIM, there is a different approach that we use. So we're going to look on that now, right? So we're going to head into Revit, and we have the space here that we intend to use. Now, I'm going to bring this up here. So we're going to put this right here. And what we're going to do is, let's create the first option. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to draw a wall that's going to be here, like that.
you I mean you can follow along if you want. This is really simple, so you don't necessarily have to. The main thing is just you have to remember how to do it for when you are doing it. All right.
And let's put in a door. The sliding door. That's the regular door. 36 wide. That's roughly there. And then we're going to put 2 sinks on each side. So I'm using the residential template. So most of these things are already built in into the residential template. So I'm going to just represent a sink here and one here. I will place the water closet there, and then I will place another door here. Oh, and let's not forget the tub. So let's go back to component, and we'll place the tub. No, we'll place the tub here, right? It needs to be attached to a wall, so we're gonna put it about right there. That's fine. All right. Now in this case, the tub is bigger. Of course, we can change the width of this tub here. Right now, the length of our room, we will just make this be 7.5 feet. And then we'll let the tub be 7.5 feet. That's quite a big tub, but we just need it for this example. There we go. So now the tub lines up exactly the wall. So that's fine, just for representation purposes. Now, let's say that we want to create a different option, like what we see here in our plan. And as I said, the incorrect way to do this would, some of us would maybe duplicate this, copy this over here, and then we start to make the changes and, you know, move the doors. So this door is down here and this, anyway. But the idea is that this is not what you actually do. In Revit, you have a feature that's called Design Options, and you find that actually down here on your screen, right? And how Design Options work is, let's say you have more than one designs that you want to propose for the same space. What you would do is go to Design Options here, and you would say, okay, I want to create a set of designs, right? So you create a set, and then you create options for that set. So let's create a new set here, and by default it calls this option set 1. Now you can rename this if you want, right? I can rename this to bathroom options, and this would be option 1 for my bathroom options. Now option 1 is my primary, which is what I'm seeing on the screen now. So let's say I want to create an option 2. So I'm going to choose new option. Then it's going to create option 2. Now option 2 is not the primary. So if I choose OK now, so I'm going to choose close. Now what you see down here is right now it's displaying the main model. Now the main model is going to display the primary option. Now if I choose option 2, everything is going to go gray, and I'm not going to see anything really, right? So the idea is, so you need to think of this as 3 layers of options. The base layer is going to be our main model. That is always going to be visible. Option 1 and option 2 are layers that you can switch on and off. But the base layer is always on. So what does that mean? Okay, so let's remove this door for now, right? Let's just speak about the items inside of the bathroom. So these 2 sinks, this tub here, this door, this wall here, all of these represents option 1. So what that means is that I need to move them from the base layer. So I'm gonna cut them, and I'm going to switch my model to option 1, and then I'm going to paste them. So I'm going to go paste to same place here. So now these are on option 1. So if I go to option 2, I won't see anything because this is option 1. And if I go to the main model, then I'm going to see option 1 because option 1 is my primary option. Okay, so let me give you an example. If I go to option 2, and in option 2, I want the tub to be up here. So I'm going to go to component. So the tub is still up here in option 2. However, my water closet is up here. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to say water closet here. This is going to be here. Then I have a wall. That's going to be here. So this is option 2 I'm looking at now. And then I have a pocket door. So I'm going to just use a double sliding door. Let me just use a double. I'm just going to use a single door here. Yeah, I'm just going to use this one. You know, this is just a test. So not that you'd have these doors actually going into the bathroom. And then I will have my sinks. So let's say that I have a let me find my base cabinets here. Okay. Put a vanity here. Another one here. Right. So let's say this is my option 2. If I switch to option 1, inside will change, and if I switch to option 2, it will change. If I go to my main model, it's going to show option 1 because option 1 is set to primary. So if I go to my design options and I set my option 2 to primary, then, and this is just showing me this error here because let me see, relationship between bathroom option. Okay, right. So that's fine. That error is fine. I'm going to choose done. So now my main model is showing option 2. I can switch to option 1. However, when I print my model, it's going to be showing me option 2, right? So this is how you do options in Revit, where you show different options by using the options, by using the design options feature. Now, you may be asking the question, how would I display option 1 and option 2 side by side if all I can do is switch between the options in the plan? Okay, well, the way that Revit intends for that to be done is you would create 2 plans. So for example, right now I have this that says first floor. So I'm going to say first floor, and I'm going to say option 1. And I'm going to say that. Then I'm going to duplicate this plan. And I'm going to say first floor, option 2. Now, so I have one with option 1 and one with option 2. Now, right now, both of them are showing me the same options. And of course, if I go to my option 1, and let's say that I choose option 1 here, and go to option 2 and choose option 2, it doesn't keep it. You know, this setting here changes it for the entire project. So how you would go about doing this is you would have to use your visibility settings, right? So what you would do is you would go into your view template here, and let's say that we want to use the view template architectural plan. So let's choose OK. So this is architectural plan here. So what we would do is we would duplicate this and just say option 1. So we created a new view template called option 1. And let's duplicate this again and call this option 2. So in option 1, in option 1 view template, we would go over to model settings here, and we'll go over to design options, and we will say for option 1 we want to show option 1, and then we're going to go to option 2 and say for option 2 we go over to design options now, and we would say we want to show option 2, which is okay. Now this drawing here is option 1 that we're in, so we're going to put it on option 1 and choose okay, and it will show us option 1. Then we go to option 2 floor plan, and we will go to the view template and choose option 2. So now option 1 is showing option 1 and option 2 is showing option 2. And the idea is we would put these two views on a floor plan. So on a sheet floor plan. So when we go to the sheet, we would drag option 1 on our floor plan, and then we drag option 2 on our floor plan as well. And right now we are showing both options on the same drawing. And the great thing about this is that they are linked to the same drawing. So for example, if I, for example, went into my drawing, so let's say that I went to the first floor here, I'm going to go into my main model, and let's say that I added a window. Now these windows that I'm adding is being added to the main model. It's not being added in option 1 or option 2. So what that means is that in both options I will see these windows. Now it was giving me an error because I added the window where the wall is here, right? But the objective is that this is the efficient way to show design options in Revit. You create an option set, then you create different options for that option set, and you work within the option set. Think of it like layers. Option 1 is a layer. You work within option 1. Anything you create in option 1 only is available when you switch to option 1, right? And this makes it very efficient to show multiple design options using the same BIM model.
All right, guys. So that is design options, right? You're going to need that because one of the requirements is that you need to show me 2 layout designs for the exhibition space, 2 different designs. So you're going to come up with 2 different layouts. All right. Any questions so far? No? Yes? No? No, don't worry. This is, as I said, this video will be here that you can review, because when you're actually doing the floor plan, you might be like, what did sir say again about design options? Or just go back to the video, reference it. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about is going to be the family modeling, right? So this is for the persons that are going to be modeling the benches, the bench and the pedestals. So we're going to go through that now.
So we're going to take a look on how would we go about building this furniture. Now in Revit, when we're building furniture, we build them as families. And the idea is that Revit's workflow really works by, when you create these families, you insert them into your BIM model, right? So the families are actually separate from the BIM model. You create them and then you insert them in the BIM model. Now, when you really think about it, Revit is actually made up of 2 programs kind of merged together, and we call them modeling environments. Now, Revit is divided into 2 modeling environments. There is the project modeling environment, and that's where you build your building. And then there is the family modeling environment, and this is where you create objects to then insert into your BIM model. So in order to create objects, and these objects range from anything from furniture to equipment to electronic equipment, communication equipment, whatever elements that you intend to insert in your BIM model, you will need to create them in the family modeling environment. Now, the family modeling environment is subdivided into 3 modes. You have the family modeling environment, the conceptual mass modeling environment, and the in-place modeling environment. Now, they're used for different things. Now, the main one is going to be the family modeling environment, and that is used to create pretty much any object that you intend to put into Revit. And this would involve, as I said, everything relating to furniture, equipments. You use the family modeling environment to do this. Now, the conceptual mass modeling environment is normally used for building out conceptual models, right? So this is usually done at the pre-design phase of a project. Now, different persons use different softwares, different tools to do this. Some persons go old school, they use pen and paper and they sketch their ideas. Some persons would use maybe Google SketchUp to model their conceptual ideas. But also, Revit provides you with a built-in way to conceptualize your ideas, and this is using the conceptual mass modeling environment. Now, the last one is going to be the in-place modeling environment, right? And this one is meant to be, I would call it a kind of quick and dirty way to create models. The reason I say that is you do not have to build this model in a separate file and then insert it in your project. The in-place modeling allows you to model within the environment. It's usually for when you want to make some very unique elements, sometimes elements that do not repeat. So for example, if you were to create a table or a chair, and that table and chair will repeat throughout the whole project, you would not use the model in place environment. But let's say that you were to create maybe a small covering for a part in your model. It's like let's say you have a unique corner and you want to maybe cover that corner with a special type of design. You're only going to use it once. This is when you would go into the in-place modeling environment. So it's used as a kind of band-aid modeling. You could kind of think of it like that, where once an object is not going to be mass distributed, then you would use the in-place modeling. So those are the three different ways of modeling, of creating objects to insert in your model. Now, normally when you go into Revit, you notice that you see these 2 headings that is here. Now, these 2 headings, models and families, and this is where you go into the different modes for using Revit. The models is where you go into the project modeling mode, and this is where you go to create your building. Now, under families, this is where you go to create a new family. So you would go to families to create either the family modeling, either to create an object in the family modeling environment or to create a conceptual mass. The model in place is not accessed from this menu here because remember, the model in place is done within the project modeling environment, right? So if we want to create an object and the intention is to use it throughout our projects, maybe even we distribute it to the rest of our team members, maybe we create a standard object that we intend to use across many projects, then the best way to do that would be to use the family modeling environment, which means when you go to Revit, you would need to go under families, you would need to go to new to create a new family. Now, in our case, we want to create this unique bench. And the idea is that when we create it, we're going to place it in our model and distribute it. So because this is going to be used for distribution, we're going to use the family modeling environment. So we're going to go over to Revit and we're going to go to families and then we're going to go to new. Now, once you do that, you'll notice that you are brought to this folder where you have a list of different family modeling templates. Now, important for you to notice, this is a RFT file, right? Which is a Revit family template file. Now, what these are, if you click on them, you will notice the preview in the top right corner as you click on them. These are all empty files. And the idea is they are template files. And you have to choose the correct template whenever you're modeling a particular object. So let's say, for example, if I was creating a kitchen faucet, then I would need to model that using the plumbing template. If I wanted to model some kind of a special column, designer column, or whatever it is, I would need to use the structural column template. If I wanted to create a special, I would need to use the lighting template. For railings, I need to use the railing template. So there is a category here for every type of object. Now, if you're creating something that is unique, that is bespoke, so it's not a furniture, it's not a lamp, it's not electronic equipment, maybe it's something that's a little different that doesn't fall under any categories, then you would choose the generic model category, right? Now, the reason you do this is that Revit needs to categorize every object that you create so that when you put it in your model, you can extract the appropriate information from it. So for example, in your Revit model, if you wanted to do a furniture schedule so that you can count the total amount of furniture that you have in your building, well, Revit will be depending on you to model that furniture family in the appropriate furniture family template. So the information that you get from creating the model is going to be important when you are in the project modeling environment. The same thing for windows and doors. If I wanted to create a door, I would create it in the door family so that in my model, if I decide to do a door schedule, it will count the amount of doors in my project. And if I create a door in my furniture template, then it's not going to count that door because Revit doesn't recognize it as a door if it's in the furniture template. So that is just a quick, just rough idea of why you would choose the appropriate template when you're about to model something. So in our case, we need to create this bench here. So we're going to use the furniture template. Now, once you do the furniture template, then you're going to choose open.
Now, something for you guys to notice in our project, you don't have to. I have already given you guys the starting point for the family modelers. So you don't need to worry about having these templates. They are in Revit by default, but what I want you to use the starting templates from what I have given you in your respective folders. All right. What I've shown you here is what you would do normally, generally, outside of this project.
Now, once you do that, you will notice that the template is now open and it's going to look pretty much blank for now. Now, your family modeling environment looks a little different than the project modeling environment. So notice that at the top here, we have create, insert, annotate. So our menus are a bit different. Now, just to show you a comparison. If I was going to create a BIM model and I would go to models and I would say create a new BIM model, and I'm just going to choose the default metric multidiscipline here. All right, there we go. So now I'm in my project and I'm going to put this side by side. So this would be my project environment here. And this would be my family modeling environment here. Now, as I'm saying that Revit is basically divided into two modes. Now, in the project modeling environment that you have here, so for example, if I should go to 3D here, I can draw a wall. So I can draw a wall, for example. I can do things like put in a door, put in windows, everything that you can do in your project modeling environment. Now, in your family modeling environment, well, firstly, notice there is no architecture tab at the top, right? So it's not made for you to do walls and windows and doors. So for example, if I go to my 3D view here, it looks a lot different. Now, your tools that you have in the family modeling environment is, for example, like extrude. So let's say I wanted to create a box. There's my box there. I'll choose OK, and I'm able to extrude the box. So this is an object that is in the family modeling environment. But on this side, we have architectural tools that is in the project modeling environment. And the idea is that you create your objects here and then you insert them here into this environment. So these are the two different modes that Revit has. So therefore, if I was in the project modeling environment and I wanted to create maybe some custom shape in this location here, and this custom shape is not a part of the architectural tools, well, I would need to first go into the family modeling environment where I have tools such as extrude, revolve, sweep. All of these tools allow me to model anything. Once I've modeled it, then I insert it back into the project. And that is really how Revit is meant for you to use the modeling environment. Now, once it is here, I can duplicate this custom object many times, and all of them are linked to the same model. Okay, so now we understand how that works. Let's go back to our environment here. I will delete this box that's here. Now, let's look back at this bench that we have here. Now, when you're creating a object in the Revit family environment, think of it as you're using a modeling program, maybe like SketchUp, but with the additional ability for it to be parametric, meaning you can set up your model to change the height, width, and all of these options. For example, in the project modeling environment, what you notice is that you can, for example, if I click on this door, I can do things like change the width of the door. Maybe I want it to be 900 millimeters. Then I'm able to change the width of the door. This door was an object that was created in the family modeling environment, and it was created in a way to allow you to change parameters while you're in the project environment. So that is the difference when you create a model in Revit's family modeler. You're able to manipulate the model if you create it that way. On the flip side, if you had inserted an object from SketchUp or some external source, you wouldn't be able to change things like height or width, all of these settings. So that is the advantage of using the family modeling environment to create your objects. So let's take a look at this object here. Now, we have an overall measurement here, and we'll probably have some measurements that we are going to estimate. So if I was to try and create a strategy for making this object, I could say, I could look at this shape. And if I just think about that shape, then what I could do is just draw the shape and then I just extrude it this way. So then I would end up with a shape like that. Then for the bottom of the bench here, I could draw another shape like that and then extrude it that way again. And this is how I could model this shape in the family modeling environment. And it would roughly end up with the shape that we have here. So now we have a game plan as to how we can create this shape. Now, when you're in the family modeling environment, notice that if you look on your project browser that you have here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to just pull this out. So we have this here. You also have a project browser in your family model environment, but notice it doesn't say things. It's not meant for you to have things like sheets and schedules and all of that. It is meant for you to be able to change your different views. So right now I'm in the 3D view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this on this side like that. So we'll have our project browser for our family here. All right. Now, if we take a look on our object that we have here, we have an idea of this shape, and our game plan was to draw out this shape first. Now, if we're going to extrude this left to right, then we need to draw this shape in our XY axis. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'm in the 3D view here now, right? And if I think about my axis here, so this is my Z axis, and let's say this is my X and this is my Y here. Now, what you notice is that if I want to draw my shape, let's say this is the shape of the bench that I have here, and let's edit that. I think it's more this way, right? So I need to draw this in my X, Y face, and then I extrude it, sorry, in my ZX face, and then I extrude it along the Y axis here. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that that would mean that you would need to change your drawing plane to be X and Z, so that when you draw your shape here, then you can extrude it in the Y. So if you notice how that relates to our view cube here, if for example, we were to draw, this is Y, right? So example, if we were to draw the shape flat on the ground, so let's say like this, so we're now drawing in this face, then that would mean we would extrude it up on the Z, right? So it matters which drawing plane you're in your family editor. And the way how you choose your drawing planes is by, under the create menu, notice you see a set plane here, just like in the project modeling environment. So you need to change what plane you're in, because that will determine how the object will extrude or be manipulated, right? All right. So right now, if I, under my create menu, if I go to show my plane, this is where my plane is. So if I orbit this, notice, you can look at my view cube here in the top right corner. This plane is pretty much flat. So if I choose to draw a shape here, if I go to extrude and I choose to draw, I'm just going to draw a random shape here like that and choose OK, then I will be extruding up on the Z axis, as you can see here based on the view cube. And that's because my drawing plane is on the ground. Now, if I go back to create here and I go to set and I click the little down arrow here and I can go to pick a plane or set a plane. So I'm going to go to set a plane here. And let's say that I want to change my drawing plane. So I want to change it from a base level to, let's say, front back. So notice that my drawing plane will be here now. So I choose OK. So if you can look in reference to my object, my drawing plane is now on the front. So now if I wanted to extrude a shape, so I go to create and create a shape. This time I'm going to create a rectangle. It's going to be created like this. So if I choose OK, then I'm going to extrude this way. And that would mean the base of my object would be here. For this object, the base was here. That's how I was able to extrude it up. So when you're in the family editor, what you need to do is actually, you need to be able to manipulate your plane, your work plane. Now, the other interesting thing about work planes is that I could go back to set plane, and this time I can go to pick a plane, and I can actually pick a plane on an existing object. So if I pick this plane here, then what is happening is now the work plane is now on this surface. Now, even though it's not previewing there, because I can extend this and you can see that the work plane is on this surface. So now if I wanted to create an object, let's create another box. Now when I extrude, it's going to be extruded based on this plane. Now, as you also notice, the plane was kind of lean, and my work plane is almost like an object that I can manipulate. So for example, I could just go to rotate here, and I could simply rotate my work plane, just like how I would rotate any object. So I would put my marker here, for example, and I could rotate my object like that. So now if I draw a shape like that, it will be extruded based on this work plane. So that is the foundation of how you work in the family editor. It is meant for you to be modeling using shapes, using work planes, which is a little different than if you were in the project modeling environment. Now, this is my 3D view here, and in my 3D view, I'm able to do things like manipulate my work plane. But I also have my different views that I have here. So for example, if I was to go to a front view, then what this means is that my work plane is automatically where I'm facing, meaning I'm not able to, for example, extrude something from top to bottom if my view is set to front, right? So on this front plane, the reason why you have these here is that you're able to now be a little bit more accurate than if you were in a 3D view. So for example, I can go here and I can say extrusion again, and I'm going to draw another shape. Now in this view, it's almost like I'm drawing on a plan, right? Of course, I'm in a front view, plan would be more top. So this would kind of be more like an elevation. But once I'm in this view and I've drawn this like this and I choose OK. Now, if I want to extrude the height of this, I'm not able to pull and push it because I'm looking dead on the front of this object. So I can do that using my properties panel where I can set my extrusion start and extrusion end. Or I could just switch to my 3D view and there is my object right here and I can extrude it as well. So the other way that I can draw in the family editor is that I can draw in these individual views. So for example, if I wanted to draw top down, I would go into my floor plan view. So this is me looking top down, and I can also go left to right or and so forth. If I wanted to have a kind of angled view, then what I would do is go to my 3D view, and then I can always use the picker plane, right? I can always use the picker work plane, and then I'm now able to choose any I'm now able to change what my work plane is. But note, once I go into one of these views, my work plane is going to be automatically set to that view. So now that we kind of understand how this works, I'm going to remove these objects here. And in my 3D view, I'm going to set my work plane. I'm going to set it to my level view. So what's going to happen is this is when the work plane is set to your level, this is pretty much like a plan view, right? Top down. So if I wanted to model this, I could go in, for example, let's say a front view here. And then what I'll be doing is that I will treat this here as my front. So translated here, I would probably draw this object something like that. And I'm drawing it in my front view. So then I can switch to a 3D view and extrude it if I want, right? So this will be how I choose to tackle this. So what I'm going to do is notice that when you go in your specific views, you get a reference plane and you also get a reference line. And this is why you would use these views and not necessarily a 3D view to start your model. When I'm in the floor plan view, I get this reference line here. So it gives me a center point for me to anchor my model. And when I'm in 3D view, I don't get this reference plane. So the idea of the family model is that you're not trying to create photorealistic models. You're mainly trying to create a BIM model to represent what the actual model is going to be. So if we were in a more high-end program that is specifically for modeling photorealistic objects, say like 3D Studio Max or Maya, the focus is not on representing objects to put in your architectural drawings. That focus would be to create like highly detailed photorealistic models. In our family modeling environment, the objective is to create a simplified representation of our model because we're going to put it in architectural drawings. So it doesn't require that photorealistic approach where you zoom into the tiny details to model. So keep that in mind whenever you're making your Revit family models. It is really a representation of the model. So with that said, if we look on this model here, there are little things like breaks in the wood. Maybe this metal here is slightly angled at the corner. All of these little details, we wouldn't try to be replicating these tiny details because our objective is we just want to create a representation of this model so we can put in our drawing. And in most cases, these models sometimes are duplicated hundreds of times, right? So trying to create a very finely detailed model will really slow down our project. And this is why when you find families online, you're not going to find them to be highly detailed, right? Because it's mainly representational. So let's go ahead and go to our front view here. And we're going to choose a reference point here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this point that's here, I'm going to make that to be my center point, that area right there, right? So now, when you're in the family editor, if you want, you can, for example, I have determined that I want to use an extrusion. So I could go ahead and go to extrusion and I could just start to draw this out. I could just do like that, and start to draw out my extrusion, right? And then, of course, I would need to make sure that these dimensions are correct. The length here should be 1,500 and so forth. But I'm not going to, usually when you're in the family editor, what you want to do is to set up construction or guidelines before you actually start modeling. Because remember, the objective of the family editor is that you want to accurately represent the furniture. So rather than just start to draw a thing and extrude it, what I would recommend in most cases is that you use your reference line or reference planes to kind of give you a guideline as to how you want to draw your model. So I'll give you an example. Now, currently in object that we have here, we know that this is 1,500. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a reference plane here. And a reference plane is just like a guideline, right? It's not an actual object that exists in your scene. So this line here represents one end of the bench. And then I'm going to copy this, right? So I'm using a reference plane. I'm going to copy this over here and I'm going to say 1,500 millimeters. Now, one thing to notice is that when I created my family file, so let me go back, give you here. So when I chose new, let me go back here. When I created my family and I selected furniture, now currently I am in the English Imperial folder. So this is why when I'm here modeling, let me go back to my modeling view, most of my dimensions are in feet and inches. I could also do this in metric, but then I would go into the metric version to do this. Now, not that it really matters because you can actually type in imperial or metric measurements. But where it does matter is that when you insert it in your project, it is going to be, if you created it in a imperial family modeling environment, then that furniture, its parameters and its properties will be all based on imperial. So because we are doing this drawing and it's in metric, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this file. I'm not going to save. And I'm going to go back again and create a new family file here. But this time I'm going to go to the English. Now you will see English Imperial and English. So English means metric and then English Imperial is going to be feet and inches. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to furniture again. Furniture. I'm going to choose open. It's going to look the exact same way, but the difference is, so let me go for my reference plane again. When I draw this, notice that it's going to be in millimeters. Now, something that you can also recognize is that you have reference plane and reference line. And both of them are referencing objects, meaning that this line that you're drawing doesn't really exist. It's just there as a kind of a guideline. Now, previously I was using a reference line. So if you draw a reference line, this is what it looks like. And it's usually a straight line. And if I draw a reference plane, this is what it looks like. The reference plane is dashed. Now, you'll notice that these lines that you see here, that's already in your template, those are reference planes. And if you click on them, you'll notice that they're actually pinned. So if I try to delete it, it won't delete. And the objective of that is that it tells you where the center of your drawing is. So the idea is that you don't delete these reference planes. Now, reference lines work similar, but they have additional features that you would use whenever you're setting up your parameters. Parameters, for example, is what I showed you earlier when I'm able to change the width of a door when I'm in the project environment, change the height of a door. You use reference planes and reference lines to set up those parameters. Now, in our case, we're going to be using a reference plane, right? And notice with reference planes, you can even name them. So I'm going to put a reference plane here, and that is going to represent this side of my object. And then I'm going to copy it 1,500 millimeters here. So now this is the full length of my bench. Now I also want the height. Okay, so there's a My reference level. So this is my floor plan. So I'm actually looking top down on the bench. But remember, the idea is that I want to be in my front view because my intention is that I want this here to be my front view. So I need to go into my front view and then draw my bench like that. If I go into my plan view and draw my bench, then the bench will be turned on its side, right? So let me go back to my front view here, and I'm going to go to reference plane. I'm going to put my first line here, and I know my next line needs to be 2100, so I'm going to copy that over 2100. There we go. Then I know I want it to be 750 in terms of the height, so I'm going to go to reference plane again, and I'm going to draw this like that, and then I'll set this to 750. So again, the idea is that, you know, I've drawn a reference plane at this point, and I've drawn one at this point, and I've drawn one here, and then my reference level is going to be here. So when I translate that here, my bench would roughly sit something like that. So this is the reason why you draw reference planes, because it helps you to kind of formulate how you're going to create your model, right? And this is how I chose to do it. Now, there's something interesting here. If I go to my 3D view, notice that I'm not seeing anything, which is fine. And the reason you're not seeing anything is because reference planes, they don't exist. They're not a three-dimensional object. So let's go back to our front view here. Now, we need to determine what this slope will be. So what I would do is that I would use a reference plane, and I would draw something. Let's go back here. Reference plane. Yeah. Oops. I want to use a reference plane and draw this like that, and draw this like that. So I know that this is what my object would be. And then maybe I can say, maybe I want this to come down a little bit more. So I could say, let's go to create reference plane. Right. I could carry this about here and then draw another one like this. So usually when you're modeling, what you're trying to do is, before you invest in like creating the extrusion, you create a kind of guidelines to kind of determine, okay, is this the way how I want my model to look? One of the reasons we're doing that is because like we don't have all the measurements for this model, right? So some measurements we're actually estimating. So I feel comfortable using some kind of guideline to first, hash out how my model will be drawn, right? All right. So now that I have this, I can go to create and I can go to extrusion. And now I'll just trace these lines here like that. And I'll choose OK. All right, now if I look in 3D now, my 3D view here, then I will start to see my object. I'm just going to choose view extents. So here's my object. All right. Now, what I can do is my extrusion length, which is this. As you know, as I move this, keep an eye on the extrusion start and extrusion end. So if I go this way, this is my extrusion end. So if I look at my plan view here, you can see that this line here and this line here is my original lines. So I can extend this like this, or I could actually put in the thickness, how thick this is going to be here. Now, based on our drawing, this should be 600 millimeters wide. So I'm going to just go here and say 600, enter. And that's going to be 600 there. So this is the plan view. This is my front view that's here. And then my 3D view is going to be this. All right, so I have this basic shape. Now I need to do this bottom part that's going to be here. So I'm going to go back to my front view like that. And what I'll do is, for this, I'll just go straight to extrusion. And I'm going to take a piece down like this and across like this. And notice that this is showing the lines thick. I can always turn on my thin lines, so that way you see the thin version. But sometimes the thin lines, like I'm not, if I want to see the lines clearly, I will use the thick lines. So there we go. And then I'm going to draw one up like this. And then I'm actually going to use my offset tool here. And the thickness that I want to make this is going to be, let's say, about 15 millimeters. I'm going to go 15. So I'm going to say my offset is 15. So there I go. So I have an offset there. So this is going to be my shape here. And I'm going to choose OK. Now, if I look in this in 3D, and I'll just turn off thickness so you can see it, you'll see this is what I'm seeing here. Now, based on my sketch that I have here, I would say this is about somewhere in the center of my shape here. So I would need to adjust my start and end extrusion, something like that. But what I'll do to get it accurate, I will go to my reference plan. And then what I'll do, I'll go take a reference plane, and I can just actually copy this reference plane. So I'm going to go to CO. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to make this about let's say 70 millimeters offset. And then I'm going to go and create another reference plane about here. And then I'm going to offset that the same 70 millimeters. So now what I'll do is I will adjust this to land here. So when I look in my 3D view, this is what I will see. Notice I don't see my reference planes, but I see my 3D object. So now that I've finished modeling my object, I can now save it. So I can go to File, I'll go to Save As, and I'll save it as a family file. Now in this case, I'm going to just save it on my desktop, and I'll call it bench. It's there. All right, great. Now, if I go back to my project file here, so remember this is my project file that I have here. I'll just make these walls not so tall. So I will make them to level 2. There we go. And I will just trim this like that. Now, let's say this was my project. I could now insert that into my project. Now, to do that, what I would need to do, right? Now notice I have 2 different Revit files open here, right? And there are 2 ways that you can load this into your project. One way is that I will go to component, and then I will go to load family, and then I will go to my desktop, and there I have the bench here, and I can choose open, and then it will load into my project. And I can put many versions of this bench. As I said, the reason you use the family editor is that you are able to mass duplicate this object, and they're all linked to the same object. So that is one way I can insert this object into my model. Now the other way I can load this into my project, the family object that I just created, is when I'm in my project, I can go to File and I can go to Open. And what I'll do is I'll open the bench here. So notice that I've opened the bench in my project view that's here. Now notice that I have 2 things going on in this Revit window. I have my project and I have my family that's open. I have it open in the same Revit window. Now, when I have that happening, when I'm in my family, I can choose this option to load into project or load into project and close. So if I choose load into project, then what it will do is allow it to be loaded into the project. So now when I go to component, I will see that bench already loaded into my project, right? So those are the 2 ways that you can get the family object into your project. You can load it by going to load family, or you could open both of them. You could open your family in your project window, and then from your family editor, you choose load into project. It does the same thing. Okay. So now that I'm into my project here, and let's say that I have a couple of these benches loaded into my project, like that. The other major advantage of creating an object with a family editor is that you're able to edit the object. Now, let me give you an example. Right now, if I wanted to, for example, change the width of my object here, I would have to go back to my family editor here. And then what I'd have to do is I'd have to change the size of this. And when I'm done, I will have to now go to load into project. And then it's going to ask me, hey, do I want to overwrite what I had before? And I will say, okay, overwrite this version and its parameters. And notice all of them have now changed size. So this is great because now I can always go back to my family editor and I can modify this. So let me edit it again so that it is smaller, then load into project again, overwrite, then it changes. So that's great because all of them changes because they're all the same object. But it can be a little tedious having to go into the family and edit it each time. Ideally, it would be great if I could just click on my object and I can just go in my properties and just change the size. Now, you can create that in your family editor, and this is how you do it. So what I need to do is I need to create a parameter called bench width, and that parameter will allow me to change the size of my bench without having to go back into the family editor, editing it, and go back into the project every time. So to do that, I'm back into my family editor. I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to go to my top view. Now, the way how parameters work in the family editor, they work based on your dimensions. So for example, I'm going to put a dimension here to here. I'm going to put one here to here. I'm going to put one here to here, right? So these are the dimensions between these reference lines, right? Now, what you will notice is that if I'm going to move this reference line here, and when I move it, you notice this dimension changes. So what I want to do in order for this to work is I want to link this line to this plane. And that way, when I move the plane, the line will move. And this line is going to be, this is the edge of our bench. So once I move this reference line, it will move the edge of this bench, and then my bench will change, right? So let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to undo that. So what I'm going to do is, the way that this works, let's make this bench a little like this, right? This is maybe a short way to do this. Then I'm going to make the bench shorter again, but I'm going to end it on this line. Now here's the important part. I get this little lock here, and once I click that, the edge of the bench and my reference plane is now locked. So what that means is that if I move my reference plane, the bench changes. So you can look in my 3D view, it actually changes. Now, I'm not seeing my reference plane in my 3D view though. I can only adjust that here. So that is step one. So step one is that I need to link the lines of my object to a reference plane. So when I move the reference plane, the lines of my object will move. That is step one. So the great thing is, what this means is that if I should click on this line and I type a dimension in here, 100, press enter, then notice that my reference plane moves, but it also moves the edge of my object. So let me undo that. So what I want to do is create a dimension line from here to here. So again, if I click on this reference plane here and I type, 1500, it will move the reference plane, and at the same time, it will also adjust my bench width as well. So I have my dimension. Let me undo that. So the idea is that all I need to do is edit this dimension, and then my bench will get wider. Now the next step I have to do is I need to turn this dimension into a parameter. So to do that, you click on a dimension, you go to the create parameter button here. And once you do that, you'll get this window. And what you're actually doing is creating a parameter so that when you're in your project and you go into your properties, you can just edit that number and the bench will change. So what I'm going to do is, let's make this in an instance, and we will discuss the difference between instance and type in just a bit. So we're going to make this an instance parameter, and we're going to call this width. We're going to say bench width, and we're going to choose OK. Now notice what you see now is that bench width equals 600, and this is how you know that this is now a parameter. So what that means is, and I'm going to load this into project now, I'm going to replace it. And what will happen now, when you click on this bench, you will now see a new parameter that says bench width 600. So now I can make this 800 and it will change just like that, which is really cool. I can adjust this. So now I don't have to go back into the family editor to edit the bench and then save it and then load it. Now I can just change this parameter directly in the project, right? And that is how you create parameters, right? Now, if you notice, when we created that parameter, we created it as an instance. So let me go back to the family editor here, right? And notice that I created this as an instance. And how I can know is that if I go to this button here that says properties, this shows me a listing of all my parameters that I have in this family. So here is a parameter that I created. I created bench width 600, which is what I'm seeing here. And when I go into my project environment, I'm seeing that as an instance parameter. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here to edit parameter. And this is where I can actually change things. So for example, I can call it bench W. Choose OK. Choose apply. Choose OK. I can load it into my project, update it. And now when I click on my bench, it now says bench W. So let me go back to my family editor here. So when I go to my properties here, my family type editor here, I can still edit my parameter. I can call it whatever. I can choose where I want to group it. So notice it says the group is under dimensions. So what that means is that back in my project environment, if I click on this bench, it is grouped under a heading called dimensions, right? So all of these settings here is what controls, go here, this is what controls the parameter of my object. Now, a while ago, we created the parameter as an instance, right? Now we're going to change it to a type. And watch carefully what happens when it's now a type. I'm going to choose OK and choose OK here. Now I'm going to load it into project again and replace. Now, when I click on my bench, I no longer get the option for changing the width in my properties. Instead, that option is now in my edit type, which is here. Now, why would I want to put it in here versus put it out here? Well, the difference is when it is in edit type and I change it, so I change it to 1000, choose OK, all of these changes. Versus if it was in my properties, only the one I have selected would change. Now that might be good and bad depending, but usually when you create a parameter, you want to create it to be a type. Let me tell you the reason why. Let's say that I had two types of benches. I had these benches down here, and then I wanted the same bench to be up here, but I want them to be a different parameter. Well, what I would do is I could copy a bench here, up here. And then what I could do is go into edit type and I could duplicate this. And I could call this bench, let's call it bench new. And for my bench new, I want those to all be 900 millimeters. So I choose OK. So if I copy, let's say that I had a few copies of this here. Right. So the idea is that all of these benches here are my original bench, which I can still edit. And all of these here are a new type of bench called bench new. So if I wanted to change only bench new to 1500, then only these will change. Now they're still the same bench object, but now I've created two different family types. And when I move the parameter to be a type instead of an instance, that parameter is now editable in edit type and not in the properties panel, which is a bit more flexible. So you can choose how you want to allow your object to be parametric by giving it parameters in the family editor, right? And you can add parameters anywhere. For example, if you remember that door that I showed you earlier, where I was able to go into my family, into my type and change the width and height and thickness of the doors, all of these are parameters. So for example, if I go to edit family and let's look at the elevations, notice you see all these parameters set up where I can change the rough height, the height, I can change the strike height, I can change the height. Notice these are not editable, which is the width of the window offset from the edge of the door, because they don't have the equal text or the label with them. So these will always remain stationary. However, these are editable. So I could actually go into my family types here and I could manipulate this. I could add a new parameter if I wanted to. A parameter that maybe changes now the height of this glass using the same method that I used before. Or I can open an existing family and modify it. So now with this ability, you can create awesome families that are fully parametric and editable. You can create any object, but just ensure when you create the object, you choose the right category to model your object in. For example, this is a door, so it was created using the family door template. We created a piece of furniture, So that was created in the furniture template. So you have to use the right template for the right object. Okay, that is how you use the family editor.
All right, guys. So what's going to happen now is that anyway, what's going to happen now is that I'm going to open up the groups so that you can choose your group members. And when you come back, second here. Yeah, my camera is overheating. Right. All right, guys. When I meet you back in the evening session, then we will I will give you the link for these files, and then you are good to go. All right. So what you're gonna do for me now is you're gonna head over to the website, right? The computing website. If you hit refresh, you should be able to see I thought I disabled that. No, I didn't actually. Let me update. Right. Okay, good. So if you head over to the computing website now and you hit refresh, you shouldn't see the pop-up anymore, and you will see when you go down to the collaborative project, you will see the handout. What everyone should do now is you should go to the section that says click to submit group members. So this is how you choose group members. Mhm.
Sir, should it be just one person out of the group to fill
Yes,
it up? Okay.
most definitely. Hold on. Hold on. Yes, one person. Because when you click on submit group members and you get the, all right, I already submitted. Yeah. You can only submit once, by the way, guys, naturally, right? But you can always edit your responses because, I know sometime in the past, one person belonged to two group or something. So, right. So when you go to submit your group members, you're going to choose your group name. So let me call it EDW Architects, right? And number of group members, 3, right? Next, who is group member number 1? Put in the ID, first name, last name. What role are they? Are they BIM coordinator, interior designer, or family modeler? Group member 2, you do the same thing. Group member 3, you do the same thing, and then you submit. All right. Now, when you guys submit, when we come into class this afternoon, so everybody needs to do this so they're in a group. However, I'm going to let the form remain open until class later, right? So when you come to class later, then I will close the form and then I will hand out the links to each group, right? So every group is going to get an assigned folder that you're going to use. It's going to be a cloud folder, so all of you can access it. So when you come later, we're going to have to install whatever programs we're going to use. I think we're going to use Google Drive. So everyone is going to have to install the Google Drive application. All right. All right. That's important because that is how you keep everything linked. So we're going to finish setting up the group when you come later this afternoon. Everybody must select a group. We're going to install Google Drive and then, or we might use another program. We'll see. I will make up my mind when we get to that point. But you're going to need some kind of application that everybody can connect to. And that is how you operate in a group. All right, guys, any questions? No? All right. So that is going to be it for class today, right? As I said, this is going to be, for some of you, this is going to be your redemption assignment, right? Um, it's very easy to get a lot of marks on this assignment. It's a group and it's fairly easy. You're modeling a bench, you're doing a floor plan, and you are putting the floor plans together and sending it to me. Like it's super simple. You can literally do this in 1 hour. All right, guys? This assignment is not a big assignment. It's not meant for you to be like weeks. Like you literally can come together and do this in 1 afternoon, right? Just do it properly so that you can get the maximum marks for this assignment, right? When is this due? When is this due? Let me see what I have here. This assignment is due. Let's see. Collaborative project is due on the 14th. Oh, meaning, oh, not due on the 14th. I'm probably issuing it on the 14th. I didn't set a due date for it yet. Oh, right. I didn't set a due date for it because I need to find out when is your final crit. And you say your final crit is the 28th? Am I right?
27th.
27th? Right. So we're clear
Oh,
of
actually, no, sir. Actually, 29th.
yeah, we're clear of this because you will have like 1 week to do this. Like literally a week. Because as I said, this is not like you don't have to build anything much for this assignment, right? So when we come back later, we can tie up the due date, but I'm leaning towards the 20th. So you get 1 weekend to do it, basically. But you know exactly what the assignment is, and hopefully, I don't know if you agree with me that it's not a lot of work, guys. What do you say, Elandra? Is it a lot of work or is it not a lot of work? In your opinion? Is Elandra here? Miss Lewis, you with us? All right. Not to your silence means I agree. What do you say, Abigail? It doable? I do hear from Abigail either. Abigail here? You gone?
I'm here, sir. Yes, it's doable.
It's doable. Okay. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Please go ahead and select your groups and we'll get set up later. All right. See you in a bit.